Hello, welcome to Africa This Month on Ominira TV. My name is Larry Peter. Africa This Month is a program where we discuss and analyze selected issues of happenings across the continent every month. In the studio today, I have with me Gboyega Adeoya. Gboyega is the host of Despite the Government podcast. Gboyega, thank you for joining me on Africa This Month.
Thank you so much, Larry, for having me.
It is my pleasure.
Well,
so let's just get into it, Gboyega. Our first story is from Nigeria, where the federal government revealed a plan to impose a sugar tax of 10 naira per litre on non-alcoholic carbonated sweetened drinks. This is coming as one of the new policies in the Finance Act that President Buhari signed in December. The Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, during the presentation of the 2022 budget, said that the government is introducing this tax to help raise revenue, to support the health-related expenditure, and also to discourage excessive consumption of sugary drinks because it causes diabetes and other health conditions. Of course, there's been an ongoing debate about that. Some people are in support, some people are against, saying this will cause loss of jobs, this will cause this and that. But I'd like to know, what are your thoughts? Should the government tax sugary drinks to discourage people or to fund a budget deficit?
So the first thing that comes to mind is every time the government wants to add to or find a way to increase revenue, they easily go to taxing people. And that's like a go-to. That should have come as an innovation, because when they talk about the concepts around it, like we're trying to do this in a way to discourage people who consume sugar content, so that we reduce the level or the number of people who get diabetes as a result of taking the sugary drinks. Some might think of it as, okay, this is an innovative way to probably score points or score 2 points with one policy. That is, you might be able to raise money, and you might also be able to save people technically from diseases. But I think the government somehow comes off as disrespectful and not very considerate when every time you want to increase revenue, the first thing you want to do is to go to people or tax people. So there are many, in the recent years you have seen the stamp duty on bank charges. You have seen all kinds of increase in, the Finance Act also has some introductions for tech companies. If you're a foreign tech company, you're expected to come and establish in Nigeria in any kind of way, so that government can get some from you. That is not entirely a bad thing, but the indigenous tech companies as well are being taxed. So when you look at the already impoverished, so to speak, for lack of a better word, Nigerians who are already struggling on a daily basis, and that is the people who you look at to take their 10 naira. It sounds simple, it sounds like small money, so you want to add 10 naira on every litre being sold of sugary drinks, because in your analysis or your submissions, you will be able to reduce diabetes or dangerous health conditions that results from sugar intake. My take is that government finds it too easy to tax people, and that's a problem. If you cannot look at the many MDAs, the ministries, departments and agencies of government that spend billions of naira, millions of naira in some cases, on monthly and annual basis, and you cannot you cannot look at a way to effectively manage or reduce money from those angles, but it's easy for you to go to people. I think that's not fair to the people, and it's also disrespectful, especially in this case where you did not really consult. The Manufacturing Association of Nigeria has reacted and said there was no consultation. I don't think this has taken effect yet, but it's proposed, and it's looking like they always do, this will go ahead. But the stakeholders are saying they will contest it because, again, Nigerians, this drink started from 50 naira when it was being sold on bottles, and now you're looking at, it went from 50 naira to 100 naira, and then 120 in plastic, and now 150. So there's a possibility the companies might not want to take the load. They'll add 10 naira to it, and then the regular pepper seller, the people in the streets who buy these things would have to increase, regardless of whether or not they have any health condition. So I don't think government should, because of trying to help people's health conditions, police how they manage. What about other health conditions like jogging or going to the gym? Are you going to police how I take care of my health in those aspects? So that was an excuse to increase money to get revenue, which I think it's too unbecoming of the government to easily go to people and take the little bits that they have. Already there is inflation caused by mismanagement, some people will argue, of the economy by the government. So you don't take responsibility of your own actions. You don't want to reduce your own salaries. You ride in the biggest cars. Look at the creme de la creme, the people in power across board, in the academia, in government agencies. They never look to themselves to reduce their funding. Look at the senators. Look at the Senate. 465 members of the Senate and the House of Reps. They take however much they take per month. So let them look to their side. If they really want to get funding, look at how you can reduce parastatals. Look at how you can reduce excessive spending instead of going straight to people and taxing them for the little that they have.
Thank you, Buega, for that extensive submission. Of course, I agree with you that the government should first look inward to cut excessive spending. And when I've heard people make argument that there's sugar tax in Australia, there's sugar tax in this country, in that country, and they have data to prove that maybe it works. But for a government that is not accountable, for a government that, as recently reviewed by Budget, found 460 duplicated projects in the budget, for a government that is not responsible with public funds, you do not expect people do not trust this government with their funds. So and I also think that the consumers who are in the lower class of the society are the ones who are going to bear the brunt of this. Aside from that, the Manufacturer Association also said there will be loss of jobs, and we already have unemployment rate as high as it is. So
from what you have said, there will be what you're trying to achieve in helping people be in better health conditions. You would have taken more in trying to help. So you are possibly taking jobs, taking more money from people. That alone can cause them more problems. So how about you let people choose? Then you can advocate. You can advise that sugary content are dangerous to your health, the same way you do with the people who smoke tobacco and cigarettes.
There are already health professionals who are sharing this knowledge on social media,
and people get to choose.
People are making their choices.
So you let people make choices for themselves.
It's just a case of penny wise, pound foolish, as they say.
At the end of the day.
But we'll see where this leads. We just know that it is not good for government to overtax manufacturers, because this is why some manufacturers move to neighboring countries who have less taxes. So, and we're losing more in that case. So let's move to the second story, which is still in Nigeria. But this time is the fact that Nigerians are finally back to Twitter. Nigerians never left Twitter anyway.
At the end of the day. Some people left.
I used Twitter less during the ban,
because it might be exhausting to use VPN.
So now I check Twitter every day now since the ban got lifted. I believe that Twitter ban was an infringement of Nigerians' digital rights. Thankfully, again, we now have it. But what do you think? I understand that it affected a number of small businesses. I also think that it must have sent wrong signals to foreign investors about our government. But what are your thoughts?
My thoughts generally are that, again, the government, I kept tweeting a number of times that the government is too powerful, because it's just easy to say, yo, this is not going to work, and it's not going to work. But thankfully, tech is making things a lot easier, which I always say this, I don't know if I'm wrong, but that's what I think. The future is democratic by default. You wouldn't need government to do a lot of things.
I like that.
So, I mean, people would always have that voice. Look at the harshest of conditions in Nigeria's history. Even in current history in Africa, people still come out in the face of the harshest dictators. So when people say the voice of the people is the voice of God, that's what it is. When 1 million people step out and say, this is what we want, sooner or later they will get it, and they keep saying it. Let me backtrack into how that happened. So in eastern Nigeria, there's been agitations by IPOB and some other elements or some other people who think that they are not fairly advantaged, or they have not been fairly treated in Nigeria. They might be right, they might be wrong, but they showed agitations in many different ways. They were infringing other people's rights. They will go to schools and tell students, you cannot stay in school because this is a zoo. We are no longer part of Nigeria. And so students who have paid to write WAEC were disturbed in schools. Police stations were affected, were burnt. There was a prison break in Imo State. There was fire incidents all over the place, arson attacks and all of that. So people were killed. Again, there are no direct numbers, but there was this attack from IPOB on Nigerian facilities, on Nigerian agents. And so it got to a point that the president wanted to speak. Again, the president is not one that speaks a lot. We barely see interviews. Maybe once in a year we see interviews, but he tweeted a 4-tweet thread. So there was this particular part of the thread that said many of the young people who are agitating now for whatever were not around in 1967 when some of us were in the field for 30 months. We will treat them in the language they understand. That is a violent language, but it has a context. It is referring, I believe, that's why I said this is controversial. It is referring to people who want war and who have shown by their actions, by burning police stations. But again, that tweet wasn't directed exactly, did not sound like it was directed to them. It sounded like it was directed to every young Nigerian that wasn't around in 1967. So young people on Twitter pounced on that and said, oh, okay, you want to show us war. And then they started reporting the tweet. That's what I believe.
Yeah,
and by default, an app that works on algorithms, when you see 5,000 people reporting a particular tweet, you want to take action. So I'm sure Twitter probably did not consider properly the other tweets or the context in which Nigeria was in, and they just took action based on their own community guidelines. This tweet is violent and threatens violence against some people or against a particular race or age group, and so they took action to delete the tweet, because there might be an 18-year-old or 15-year-old on Twitter who might be shocked by that tweet or be traumatized in a way. If the president of my country says he will treat me, not necessarily talking to me, but it came off because of people's perception too. Again, social media, a lot of people don't read with nuances and context. They just take hook, line and sinker. So Twitter took action based on their community guidelines without the Nigerian context, and the president felt disrespected. Again, there's a background. October 2020, Nigerians were agitating for EndSARS. They wanted an end to police brutality, and they wanted support. The CEO of Twitter actively supported young Nigerians against, the police brutality, but the government might look at it as, okay, who are these people? Last year, you were part of raising funds and agitating against this cause, and you are here again deleting the president's tweets. So I take it as the state, the president and his team, in this particular case, the Minister of Information, taking that as too personally. Again, when they took it too personally, they were like, oh, okay, we have power to unplug Twitter. Let's go ahead.
Wanted to add in there, remember that I like that you've given a good background
Context,
information about that. But remember that there had been attempts to regulate social media even before EdSARS.
So that was, it looked like, oh, this is the right time. We were trying to control these people. Now they have done one or two wrong things. It wasn't wrong that Twitter took down the president's tweets. They deleted Donald Trump's account when he incited violence.
Exactly.
So that's community guidelines. It wasn't wrong, but again, there are contexts. There's a Nigerian story that Twitter may not have considered adequately before taking that action. So long and short, they took that action, which is where the crux of the matter is. If you consider that the action you are about to take would affect 5 million business people, young people who are trying to survive in a country like this, by selling their market on Twitter, by enjoying giveaways from people like Don Jazzy and the rest of them, by just being on Twitter, getting job opportunities globally, and of course, if you really considered that you're about to take an action in response to the president's tweet being deleted, but this action you're about to take would affect way too many people, then you would have held back. A president, could have made a speech that would break the internet and send clear signals to Twitter and the whole of the Silicon Valley that you do not disrespect us like that. But you keep it on because your people need it. The young people need this platform to sell their businesses, to be informed by you. A lot of the things you are doing in infrastructure, the announcements you want to make, some of your agents come on Twitter to make these announcements. A lot of
I remember this administration rode on
social media. So you don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. You don't just take action just because someone bruised your ego. You should have been more considerate. Now the listed conditions that Twitter would have to abide by before they are stable in Nigeria. There is you need to establish an office in Nigeria. You need to pay taxes because you make money from the Nigerian territory, and so many other conditions which are afterthoughts and shenanigans. The detail or the bulk of the story is that the president was disrespected and they had to take action. But you took action that affected millions of Nigerians badly, which is counterproductive at the end of the day.
Counterproductive at the end of the day. What I would just add to that, it's clear that one of the things that I understand from the experience, the Twitter ban experience, is it's obvious that our government, despite the context of which the tweet was deleted, it's clear that the government still do not respect human rights.
I mean, there are judgments in the country that says, release this man. He has a right to go. He would come to court and attend it. But you continue to retain him. I mean, there's the El Zakzaky case, and that was detained for years before he was eventually released. So you hold on to him under the guise of national security. Again, these things, they're not exactly permissible, but you see examples elsewhere where, because of national security, some laws have to be broken. Again, you can't excuse it, so I keep going back and forth. But this is the same country that would suspend the constitution because of national security. We have seen these statements everywhere. So I'm sure they didn't care about these young...
On that note, we'll just move to the next story, which is about the happenings in Mali. I mean, there's been a political crisis riling up in that country, and some days ago, thousands of people in Mali took to the streets after the military ruler actually called for people to protest against sanctions imposed by the economic community of West African states, and that's over the delayed elections. And just to put some context in that, in August 2020, the current military ruler, which is Goita, Colonel Goita, toppled the civilian government of Ibrahim Keita. Took him out of power, seized power, and then he promised to conduct elections to civilian rule, to get back to civilian rule in February 2022. As they say, power corrupts, and
power corrupts, absolutely.
In December 2021, he probably just thought to himself that this
Let's extend
is
it.
really nice, you know. And then
That's a popular African story.
It is. We've heard this
So
trend. It's happened over and over, and you know, he proposed in December that he wants to conduct elections in December 2025. That has met with a lot of opposition from European Union,
From
the
ECOWAS.
United Nations, and particularly from ECOWAS, who, you know, where the countries in the region have shut their land and air borders, and you know, they have halted financial aid, and you know,
In fact, they
frozen their
account of Mali, leading to the
central
ECOWAS
bank.
account,
You know, so it's a lot of sanctions on Mali right now, and you know, the military ruler asked the people to protest on the street, and it seemed like despite all of this pressure, the people in Mali are rallying,
Standing with the,
you know, behind the military ruler. So what are your thoughts? Why is this becoming a trend in Africa?
African nations, I don't know the backstory, but I do know that these stories are popular. The military stays in power and, you know, holds on to power for 20 years, for 30 years. Zimbabwe, Sudan, you can go on and on. But the successful democracies in Africa, I wonder how they've been able to do it. South Africa since 1994, I believe. Nigeria since 1999. Ghana since for a very long time. So we are seeing only a few success stories. Botswana, many other, Kenya, they have their own challenges too, but they seem stable. So only a few success stories when it comes to democracy in Africa. But the notorious ones, Mali, Zimbabwe, Sudan, South Sudan, even that's a small country. The trend is the same. I want to stay in power, put my folks there. After I leave, my son will take over. But they have the support of it. In some cases, the people, in some cases, their own circle of military administrators. But it's not good. In Mali, what's shocking, or maybe not shocking, is that the people are standing with them, regardless of international contradiction or international opposition. But that's the difference. In Gambia, with Yahya Jammeh some years ago, Nigeria was able, you know, with ECOWAS, was able to lead this wave and appeal and force. All of that came together to force Yahya Jammeh because the people were tired, and there were real protests that ensured that he left and new dispensation came in. Now, to be able to, you can't force people to take what they don't want, which is where Mali is complicated. But they seem to have been going through a lot for a long time with the Tuareg situation, the wars, the attacks, the Islamic situation that was going on down there. But I just felt the people always, if the situations are good, they always get what they want. So if this is what they want, maybe they should wait it out. I mean, I don't think Goita, who is the current military administrator there, is particularly forcing them to support him. It looks organic, it looks real. They want him.
And that makes me think, what could make people want to
side with? I think the
want
ethnic
a military ruler in 2022.
Maybe we shouldn't look at it like that, but we should look at it as, okay, we call him military ruler, but they call him perhaps one of them. Maybe there are ethnic intonations. Perhaps he's the person that's like their darling right now for whatever reason. I don't know the exact situation, but I know that there are ethnic rumblings there. So maybe the pictures of protests that we are seeing are from one tribe. If it's the total Malian population that is saying we want this guy for now, I think ECOWAS and the international community might have to find a way to negotiate or to persuade this administration to move easily into civilian rule. Since you have the popular appeal, which is what democracy is about.
Colonel Goita actually said he's open to dialogue.
But he's talking about 2025, which is way too long.
He's open to dialogue. And what I just think is that he wants to extend his stay in power. And no matter how it is, he's going to extend his staying power. It may not be till 2025 because these sanctions are quite tough.
Yeah.
Before you know it, prices of inflation would be on the rise now in the country. Soon the government may not be able to pay civil servants. This would have consequence.
Yeah, maybe that then would help us find a stalemate or find solution. So if ECOWAS continues to stay on their ground, that because I have seen, why I keep talking about the people is that I've seen interviews where people say, or I saw one person speak, not entirely the entire population, but saying that ECOWAS should leave us alone. The EU should leave us alone.
I saw pictures of
people saying that. So if that's what you want, then would ECOWAS then be wrong to say, okay, let's leave you for now? But then again, Mali may have signed parts of some ECOWAS, conventions that would include that if we all agree to be democratic, you cannot opt out like that.
Exactly.
You have signed this, then you have to bring your people back into this fold. So ECOWAS might want to stay on their ground, on their stand, and say, yo, we're not leaving you. So there won't be aid, there won't be money. Let's see how you do in 3 months. After 3 months, we'll meet again and take tougher sanctions and see where you go, because we have to get Mali back to democratic rule.
So it is on this note that we come to the end of this episode of Africa This Month. Boyega, thank you so much for being a part of this
Thank you for inviting
program. Me. Thank you. Thank you for watching up to the end. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, share with your friends, and let's do this again.